Hi, and welcome to Comedy Recapped. Today we'll be talking about the 1998 comedy A Night at the Roxbury, starring Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan. It's about two men who still live at home and exist solely to hit on women at nightclubs. Although they've been largely unsuccessful, a run-in with Richard Grieco turns their luck around. Beware, spoilers ahead. The movie opens up with our two protagonists, Steve and Doug Butabi, brothers, at a nightclub together. Doug approaches a woman unsuccessfully, dancing on her aggressively before being pushed away, one after the other. Steve tries to jump in as a breakdancer takes the floor, only to immediately fall on his face. Not dissuaded, he rejoins his brother as the two of them volley a woman dancing between them. She runs away, afraid, and the men are unceremoniously tossed out of the club. They drive through Los Angeles, dancing while bobbing their heads to Eurodance music until Doug smashes the window with his head movements. They go next to the Mud Club, where they tell a story about meeting Emilio Estevez to two very unimpressed women. They're once again unsuccessful and continue their drive. While driving, they do a choreographed dance together before being pulled over by an attractive female cop. This throws them off, as they nearly got the dance perfect. Steve and Doug both misconstrue the cop as being flirty, and she serves Steve a ticket as she asks him to obey the speed limit. Ever the optimist, Doug is excited because he secured a date at the court with her, the way he sees it. They make it to the exclusive Roxbury, where the bouncer refuses to let them in because they're not on the list. They see Richard Grieco pay off the bouncer, but the bouncer quickly turns them away, despite their exuberance about getting in to meet the celebrity. In the line, they continue to meet people who are unimpressed by the same Emilio Estevez story they've been telling. Slowly, they inch their way to the front of the line, but by the time they get there, the club is closing up. The following day, they're back home at their wealthy father's Los Angeles mansion, where they wake up in their shared bedroom. They goof off before racing each other downstairs. They run into their mother, a woman who is obsessed with her appearance and her new yearly plastic surgery. The two boys compliment her before their surly father comes inside and shouts at them. The brothers are told to go to work, especially Steve, who is meant to meet the daughter of the lamp store owner next door. They scoff at his insults before walking into work on the extravagant strip. They don't miss the chance to hit on a woman who beats them over the head with her purse when they won't leave her alone. At the silk plant store, the two spend their time goofing off and daydreaming about opening a club someday as nice as the Roxbury. When a customer goes to use his credit card, Doug uses the time as an opportunity to call up the credit card approval line, dialing into one good-natured but a tired-sounding associate, whom he calls his credit vixen. She is clearly tired of the man's shenanigans, but not enough to be rude. She approves the card and sends him on his way. When Emily approaches Steve, the brothers are loading up the van with fake plants. The two have a history together before she went to college, and she's excited to reunite. Doug is aggressively not interested in that happening. He finally bursts, getting in her face, before Mr. Butabi gets in between them to smooth things over. The plant store shares a wall with a lighting emporium owned by Fred Sanderson. Sanderson and Mr. Butabi are conspiring to have Steve and Emily, Sanderson's daughter, get married. They want to unite the two families and their business to create a plant lamp emporium that Steve will run one day. After work, the brothers go to the gym, where they link up with their trainer, who wants to help motivate them, while still increasingly worried about being their friend. They don't seem to have an issue with that. Then they go to the bench, where they hit on women and discuss their future, about the plans to open up a nightclub like the Roxbury. They decide they're finally going to get into the club. Steve looks pretty hesitant, but Doug hypes him up, assuring his brother that they will get into the Roxbury because they're good-looking and motivated. Their father has other plans back at home, as the Sandersons were already over to visit. He tries to get them to join the party, but they're focused on the Roxbury. When Emily runs after him, she compliments Steve, but he flips between appreciating the compliments, then being disinterested when Doug brings him back to reality. Mr. Butabi interrupts them getting ready to go to the club, sending Mr. Butabi and Doug into a heated argument about their choices. He refuses them access to the BMW and their cell phones, but Doug won't let this set them back. On their way out, their mother gives them enormous, outdated cell phones, and they get access to the plant store's delivery van instead. They're hyped up to go to the Roxbury, but when they're asked their names, they are again denied entry into the club. They discover that you can bribe your way into the club, so they try to do it themselves. However, they don't have much, and they try bribing him with low amounts. The bouncer is unimpressed and dumps their money, cash and change, onto the floor, sending them away. The brothers drive around for an ATM, slamming on the brakes constantly, causing them to get into a fender bender with Richard Grieco. He's frustrated by the accident. As he explains to his girl in his car, the car is actually an illegal racing car, and therefore he does not want to get attention from a police report. Frightened by the boys head bobbing and assuming that they're going to try to claim a neck injury, he tries to figure out what they want. Of course, they ask to get into the Roxbury, so Richard Grieco uses his fame to get them into the prestigious club. While hanging out with him, they meet the owner of the Roxbury, Benny Zadir. Zadir listens intently to their idea for their own nightclub, and he immediately likes the boys. Grieco leaves quickly, thinking himself safe from the two men's thoughts, and leaving them alone with the business owner. While Zadir is distracted by Jim Carrey, the boys meet two women at the Roxbury, Vivica and Camby. They see them talking to Zadir and assume they're rich. They seem to take the strange, aggressive dancing in stride and tag along on the ride with the Butabis with Mr. Zadir. On their way to a party at Mr. Zadir's house, the brothers bother the limo driver, Dewey, by making him stop and buy Fluffy Whip for Whippets and make jokes about sleeping with his parents. While at the convenience store getting the cans, Doug calls up the credit card company again for approval, calling in for the credit vixen, and tells her about their success. They exchange some flirty words, get the approval, and then go on their way. Mr. Zadir sets up a meeting with the Butabi brothers at the after party, which excites them, but he disappears into the party. They see a woman without her top on, and the two of them are clearly inexperienced. The women from the club find them again and steal them away into a more private area. The women sleep with the brothers, realizing they're virgins. The boys believe that this means they're now in serious relationships. The next day, at their father's shop, they're told off again and decide to leave in the middle of their shift to go to their meeting with Zadir. They not only don't have a meeting set up, and security is called in when they try to force their way in, but Dewey was so annoyed with them that he refuses them entry to Zadir's office, claiming he was drunk out of his mind last night and he doesn't know who they are. He tells them they're not the first people to try this, and they're carted out. In reality, Zadir did want to see them. However, he didn't get their contact information and was just waiting for them to show up. Dewey lies and says he hasn't seen them. Vivica and Camby break up with the brothers when they realize they're not actually wealthy. While stuck in traffic, Steve and Doug later argue who is at fault for their sudden misfortune. And in a huff, Doug moves out of their shared bedroom and into the guest house. Meanwhile, Steve is a pushover and is forced into a hasty engagement with Emily by his father, without Doug to stick up for him. The two spend some time apart, clearly missing each other, as Emily decides their future and Doug sadly watches from the window. Steve tries to invite Doug to be his best man, but Doug pretends to be an answering machine and listens to Steve's call on the other line. The wedding is later held in the backyard by the Butabi residence, where Craig, their personal trainer, is his best man, but doesn't quite understand the job description. Also, Richard Grieco is at the wedding party, not wanting to get sued. As Steve seems increasingly nervous, he can't help but to hit on one of Emily's bridesmaids. Before they can be properly married though, Doug interrupts with a boombox playing What is Love? The brothers reconcile and leave, and Craig steps in to take Steve's place. He reveals he's always had feelings for Emily, and he has plans to make his own line of protein bars. This suits Emily's high aspiring dreams, and the two marry. Afterward, Richard Grieco consoles Mr. Butabi, helping him understand that Steve wasn't ready for marriage. After a heart-to-heart between them, Mr. Butabi understands that he's much harder on Doug because he sees himself in his son, and is being hard on himself. The brothers reconcile with their father, and Doug moves back to the bedroom, and the brothers are back on their original beat, frequenting nightclubs. They happen upon a new nightclub, unique as the outside is built to look like the inside, assuming this was the idea they pitched to Mr. Zadir at the club all those weeks ago. They go to the line and, when asked their names, learn that they are actually on the list, which catches them off guard. As they walk in, they notice it's exactly what they wanted. A club on the outside and a street inside. They run into Mr. Zadir, and he reveals that he's made them part owners of the club as a reward for the idea. This newfound success comes full circle when the two meet women at the club. a woman hears them speaking and recognizes the voice. It's Doug's phone operator, the credit vixen, and the police officer who ticketed them that first night, who, as it turns out, was actually interested in him after all. They go out onto the dance floor and dance the night away. And that's going to wrap things up for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed this recap as much as we did. If you liked the video and want to look into other movies with us, then be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on. That way you won't miss a single video.